So yesterday we had a state of play with 30 minutes entirely dedicated to Gran Turismo 7, and boy, they covered a lot of stuff. We also got even more information from the interviews with Kazunori Yamauchi published after the event ended, so let's cut this intro short cause we got a lot of ground to cover here. In this video I combined everything we learned from the event, the interviews, and a few other stuff I was able to spot myself to create this list with no less than 100 things we learned about Gran Turismo 7. Sit tight cause it's gonna be a long one. A ton of people were disappointed by the lack of a proper career mode in Gran Turismo Sport, but Gran Turismo 7 is set to fix that. The game is still going to appeal to those who are more into the competitive side of sport mode, but it's also gonna be a massive throwback to the fans who grew up playing Gran Turismo games. There are over 400 cars confirmed at launch. We don't have an official list yet, but you can easily find lists the community put together with all the cars that were shown so far. The game is obviously going to have post-launch support, but now we have official confirmation that more cars and tracks will be added through post-launch updates. Gran Turismo 7 is moving away from the menu-based interface from Gran Turismo Sport and going back to the overhead map style from the old games. This new map screen is meant to represent a vacation resort, and it's there that you have access to most features in the game. Now this one almost slipped under the radar because they didn't talk about it, but from the track selection screen you're gonna be able to start arcade races, time trials, custom races, or the circuit experience for that specific track in case you wanna learn it. One of the many things you'll be able to do in custom races is combine weather conditions and AI cars of your choice. They didn't exactly go into details on this one, but I would assume you can choose the car grid for the AI to some extent, maybe limiting it to certain brands, categories, or year. Drifting is confirmed for Gran Turismo 7, and we can also see that the Drift Trials mode is back. Couch players are probably gonna be happy to know that 2-player split screen was shown at the event, so it's pretty much confirmed to be in the game at launch. GT Auto is back in Gran Turismo 7. If you play the old games, you probably know what this one is about, but if you're new to the series, GT Auto is a feature that lets you take care of your car like you would in real life. You can wash it, you can change the oil, do a little bit of maintenance, and stuff like that. And before you ask what's the point, just like in the old games, cars in Gran Turismo 7 need to go through maintenance from time to time to keep them in pristine condition. It's just a small feature that fans of the series love because it creates an extra level of attachment to certain cars in your garage, so it's awesome to see back. There's a new feature called Showcase. Well, they say it's new, but it's basically the exact same one from Gran Turismo Sport, where you can see and download photos, replace, liveries and designs that other players shared. It just goes by a different name now. There's something labeled as gifts in the garage menu. They didn't go over this one on the event, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. This should allow you to gift cars to other players, maybe not all cars, but at least some, or it could be cars that the game gifts you. Gran Turismo 7 will have microtransactions at launch. If you don't have enough money to buy the car you want, there's a button at the bottom of the pop-up card that would take you to the PS Store so you can buy in-game credits for real money. As long as it's no different to the microtransactions in Gran Turismo Sport, where for the most part you don't even notice they're there, I'm fine with it. If you're worried that Gran Turismo 7 was gonna have one of those modern concepts where players have the freedom to do whatever they want, and I hate it, then stop worrying. Gran Turismo 7 doesn't care about your freedom, it doesn't give a damn about what you want. You're gonna start out in a compact car you buy with some in-game credits you get to give you a head start, and you're gonna enjoy it. And that's the way it should be. There's also something called collector points you get by buying new cars, and you level up when you reach a certain amount of points. They didn't say anything about this one, so that's all I know. I'm kinda under the impression that this one is replacing the regular levels from Gran Turismo Sport, but I'm not sure. Gran Turismo 7 is gonna have your standard progression. You progress through the campaign by completing races, unlocking new cars, and tuning and upgrading your vehicles for better performance, which should probably give you access to events with specific requirements, just like some of the past Gran Turismo games. There's a new feature called Gran Turismo Café, which we have seen before, but knew little about. And it's quite literal. It's an actual cafe you go into, and there you'll be given a car collection menu you complete by winning races and championships. You also have punch cards to fill in by collecting these cars. We have no idea if we'll get exclusive cars by completing these punch cards, but it'll be nice if that's how it works. There are gonna be 30 of these car collection menus available at launch. You'll have to complete some of these menus to unlock new tracks. There's a chance that some cars might be locked behind progression on some of those menus, but for now, only tracks are confirmed. Gran Turismo Sport had something similar, where you had to play through the game to unlock all the tracks, so this isn't necessarily new to Gran Turismo 7. Completing these menus will be the so-called ending. But Yamauchi said that Gran Turismo 7 actually has no ending. It's meant to be a game you play endlessly. GT Café is meant to be a celebration of car culture, and this feature will be some sort of hub where players can immerse themselves in the history of cars. Sometimes the people who designed those cars will show up at the cafe to talk about the designs. This is yet another one that went by really quick, but if you pause at the right time, you'll see there's something called Roulette Ticket, which I believe is a different approach to how the game hands out free cars for completing the daily workout. Judging by what we have here, instead of trying your luck at random wheel spins, the game will give you tickets that should get you free cars. You can see that this one is a 4-star ticket, but it goes up to 6. So the higher it goes, the more expensive or rare your reward car could be. I'm just speculating here, I have no idea if I'm onto something, but that's my take on this one. These roulette tickets have an expiration date, so if you don't use them by the date they expire, they're gone forever. Gran Turismo 7 is bringing back the infamous tiered license test. Now, if you grew up trying to get gold on everything in the old games, you're probably missing a good chunk of hair. Some of those got really difficult. Rage-inducing really. Even though it was a pain to go through all of them, there was something very Gran Turismo about it that a lot of people miss, so I'm happy to have you back. Mission Races was one of the more structured features in Gran Turismo Sport. It has nothing to do with license tests though. It's more like a set of challenges the game has to go through for reward cars. Not sure if there will be reward cars this time around, but the challenges themselves are usually fun to do, so I personally don't think it's a big deal if it doesn't. Some of the FIA World Tour finalists were brought into Gran Turismo 7 as instructors for some of the mission challenges. Drag racing is gonna be in Gran Turismo 7, as we can see in one of the mission challenges. We don't know if you're gonna be able to take part in drag racing outside of those missions though, but it'd be nice if you could. I'm not into drag racing myself, but I know a lot of people play certain racing games just for that, so I don't see any reason why this shouldn't be a thing in Gran Turismo 7. They went all in with the brand central feature in Gran Turismo 7, and now it's an entire freaking shopping mall where players can purchase new cars. And although it would be cool, just don't expect to be able to walk around it. I think it's more for eye candy than anything else. What's interesting is that you can only buy around 300 cars from the year 2001 and later through the brand central. The game is launching with over 400 cars, so there's a good 100 that were left out, which leads me on to the next one. There's a brand new legendary car dealership that specializes in historic vehicles. I'm not sure if that's gonna make up those 100 missing cars from Brand Central, but I would expect at least a couple dozen to be exclusive to this new dealership. The remaining missing ones should probably be reward cars you can get anywhere else. You can also put cars from the legendary car dealership in a watch list, which should probably allow you to keep track of pricing and availability. Brand Central also now shows a lot more information about the cars available for purchase. Just keep in mind that the prices shown here are for the Japanese version of the game, which makes everything look way more expensive. You're not gonna be paying 4.1 million in-game credits for a Ford Focus. This should come at about 41,000 credits in the English version of the game. Each manufacturer is gonna have a showroom and museum section. That's a step up from Gran Turismo Sport, where only a few brands had an exhibition going through their entire history. And we're not ready to move away from dealerships just yet, because they confirmed that the used car dealership is back. You can keep track of the mileage of each car up for sale at the used car dealership. They also said that some specific used cars may be sold at a premium depending on how popular they are. The popularity of those cars will be in line with the popularity of the real-world counterparts. We don't know yet if players will be able to put their own cars up for sale, or if that's something Polyphony Digital will work out on their end to keep things from getting out of control. So we'll have to wait for the game to come out to see how it's structured. The used car lineup will be updated and changed slightly every day. There's also a wishlist icon in the used car dealership screens. We don't have any details on that one, but one way I think it could work is that it could let you know whenever a car you wishlisted is back on sale, just like the PlayStation Store wishlist feature does. They didn't spend too much time on physics, but they did say that the physics simulation is so in-depth that they managed to make the in-game lap times match the real-life counterparts. That doesn't mean much of anything, but there you go. Weight transfer and wind direction are supposed to change how your car handles, which is more interesting than lap time parity, but that's not necessarily new to Gran Turismo 7. Gran Turismo Sport already has simulations for those aspects. Dirty air was very much a thing in that game, and it's noticeable how much the amount of grip changes based on whether you're driving behind or in front of someone. The tuning shop is back. This is yet another one fans have been asking for a really long time, and it's finally here. They'll have around 60 different types of performance parts per car. Engine swaps seem to be a thing in Gran Turismo 7, and although they haven't confirmed anything, you can clearly see that this upgraded Beetle is running a Porsche engine. And since the tuning shop is gonna be a thing in Gran Turismo 7, that means that tuning is gonna have a more prominent role in the game. With that being said, GT Planet asked Yamauchi about the ability to share tune setups with the community, and the answer is no. The reason he gave them is that there could be differences in the parts each player have installed to their car when downloading a new tune setup, and this could cause problems. And I know people are gonna draw comparisons to Forza Motorsport and Forza Horizon, but as far as I can tell, they all have different systems. Forza is designed to force certain visual upgrades that affect performance on your car if the tune setup you're downloading has them on. And Gran Turismo 7 seems to be designed to allow you the freedom to have whatever visual customization parts you want, regardless of your settings, so it's a different approach. Still, I find it a little bit disappointing that they couldn't figure something else out, so yeah. With that being said, Yamauchi did say that the entire tuning settings screen was designed with the use of screenshots in mind. So basically, if you want to share your settings, you can screenshot it and then share it to the showcase feature in the game so that other people can copy it. Not ideal, but I'll take it. The dev team know it's a bummer that the game won't allow you to share tune setups with the community, so to make up for that, Yamauchi confirmed that their book on vehicle dynamics called Apex is gonna be available for free. This book was originally part of the collector's edition of Gran Turismo 5, and it talks about how each aspect of the car works from a physics perspective. I appreciate the sentiment here, but I think this book won't be of use to most people. Gaining an understanding of vehicle dynamics through a book is one thing. Being able to apply this to an actual car while taking into account all of the variables that go into tuning it for specific tracks and situations is something else completely, and they don't necessarily cross over. The tuning screen is made up of 3 sections. The one on the left shows a bunch of information about your car performance, the one on the right has your options and settings, and the one in the middle is there to show you the impact of the changes you make in real time, including how much it affects the overall performance point value of your car. The performance point value is not calculated based on a formula. They actually do a simulated lap in the background with the new settings to give your car its new performance point value. Gran Turismo 7 not only is bringing back customization, but it's also expanding on what the past games had. The game will launch with several thousand of customization parts in total. You can choose colors for your car body and brake calipers, change wings, rims, and more. There will be over 650 aerodynamic parts, 130 types of wheels, 1200 colors, and a ton more. You can also install roll cages and do white body modifications. There's even a side-by-side comparison to show you the changes you're making to your car in real time. The livery editor got an upgrade, and the limit to the number of stickers you can apply to your cars has been increased. Gran Turismo 7 is finally gonna allow you to add stickers to windows, which wasn't really a thing in Gran Turismo Sport. And I know a lot of you out there wanted this feature for some time now, so there you go. GTPlanet was able to confirm with Yamauchi himself that Gran Turismo 7 will allow you to import your liveries and decals from Gran Turismo Sport, so none of the designs you spent a ton of time on will be left behind. Ray tracing is probably one of the main features of the new consoles, and we had seen some of it in a few of the earlier trailers they had shown for Gran Turismo 7. The question was whether we'd see the feature in races or in replays only. And now we have official confirmation on how that's going to work. There is ray tracing in the game, but not where most people would want it. The game will have two different rendering modes. There's a frame rate mode that's used for gameplay where the game will run at 60 FPS without ray tracing, and there's a ray tracing mode that's used for replays, photo mode, and something called 3D stages. More on that later. And apparently those modes are locked, so players won't be able to toggle them on or off. John Lindman of Digital Foundry also noticed that there seems to be motion blur in races now. Gran Turismo Sport only had motion blur in replays, and now that it seems to be in races as well, it should give us a higher sense of speed. Now, these next two are just my own observations. Gran Turismo Sport had some noticeable pop-in the rearview mirror that seems to be completely gone in Gran Turismo 7. At least from the brief moments we got to see the mirror, I didn't spot anything popping in or out of view. Small improvement, but it adds up. Another thing I noticed is that the reflections on the hood of this yellow car and a Shelby Cobra later on in the video update at half refresh rate, which is the same as Gran Turismo Sport. At the same time, there are a couple of other cars in the video where the reflections seem to be updating at a higher refresh rate, so I don't know if there's PS4 footage mixed in there or if it's just a result of an earlier build of the game. Escapes mode was one of the biggest new features in Gran Turismo Sport, and it was probably where I spent most of my time in the game when I wasn't racing. So I'm glad that it's back in Gran Turismo 7, and it'll feature twice as many pictures now, with over 2,500 spots around the world. There seems to be more Escapes locations planned for future updates, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. Another new addition is the ability to take photos in HDR. Now, to clear up any confusion, you can take photos in HDR in Gran Turismo Sport already. Well, sort of. If you have your display set to HDR on, the game will tone map your pictures in the HDR color space. It's not actual HDR. Gran Turismo 7 on the other hand will let you take photos in actual HDR, so your highlights should be brighter and a lot more details should show up in the darker areas of the image. They added a bunch of new picture presets on top of the existing ones from Gran Turismo Sport. Some of those presets don't look that good if you apply them to the entire image, but they can make for some great results if you combine a few of them with layer masks and lower opacity. As for the sliders you have available on your virtual camera, they're mostly the same unless there's something else I missed. If you're familiar with what's possible in Gran Turismo Sport, you should be familiar with what's possible in Gran Turismo 7 out of the gate. However, for the sliders and settings available in the in-race photo mode, I did notice something new called condition settings. This entire section of the video is sped up, but if you pause just at the right time, you'll see that nested within this new feature is a bunch of new options that let you control whether your car shows dust, oil stains, scratches and dents, and lens cover cracks. Now, this one is probably one of the most exciting for me personally. As I said, I spent a ton of time on spaces in Gran Turismo Sport. According to GT Planet, there's a screenshot in the media pack they received from Polyphony Digital that shows something called Scapes Movies. This is very likely an extension of the photoscapes, but in motion. I can only begin to imagine what this feature will do to virtual videographers. It's something I wanted to see in Gran Turismo Sport the moment I started messing around with the Scapes features. That game looks so good, it was a shame there wasn't a way to create short videos on set locations. I'm really looking forward to learning more about this one in particular. I'll be the first to admit I wasn't really into replays until Gran Turismo Sport came along. They were very popular in that game because of how cool Polyphony Digital made it look, and to no one's surprise, they're back in Gran Turismo 7. There's also a new feature called Music Replay that dynamically generates a replay camera to match the background music. Replays in the previous games had cameras fixed on the track, but with Music Replay, the camera positions and image cuts are generated randomly every time to match the music, so it's gonna be different each time. Music Rally is a new game mode where you drive to music. It's a mini game where you go through checkpoints to extend the timer. What makes it so unique is that the timer works as a metronome to the song that's playing. So slower songs will have slower timers and faster songs will have faster timers. It's all in sync. Regardless of the song speed, the faster you drive, the longer you're able to keep the music playing. Apparently there will be a way to compare against your friends for who managed to keep the music going for the longest. One interesting thing about Music Rally is that it features a new HUD for the speedometer and gears. Not sure if that's exclusive to this mode or if it's something you can toggle on everywhere else in the game, but I do recall seeing it in the FIA World Tours. There are a total of 34 track locations and over 90 layouts confirmed for Gran Turismo 7 at launch. They're a combination of real-world and original tracks. We don't have a complete official track list yet, but here are the tracks I was able to spot through the event and in past trailers and screenshots. Now, if you're keeping track, that's 33 tracks in total, which leaves just one more to be revealed either before or at launch. There's been speculation that some of the recent videos uploaded to the official YouTube channel of the game might be teasing the inclusion of Albert Park, Apricot Hill, and one of the other variations of Special Stage Route. Whether the last track to be unveiled is gonna be one of these, nobody knows, but there's a chance we might end up seeing them sooner or later in a future update. It looks like they spent a lot of time and effort developing the weather simulation system in the game. They used meteorological data to inform temperatures, humidity, and air pressure for each region individually. This data is fed into their engine to simulate how clouds are formed, so clouds will look very organic in the way they come up in the sky and also in the way they dissipate. Skies in Japan will change as they do in Japan, skies in California will change as they do in California. That's all to say they really went all in on the simulation of each aspect of every region to give it as much authenticity as possible. The moon will rise and set in the same way the sun rises and sets, which is something I don't think I've ever seen in another racing game, but I might be wrong here. Starry skies can also be seen in specific locations at certain dates and times. You can even see planets under the right conditions. This should make for some awesome looking photos. Even the color of the stars will change depending on whether the atmosphere is clear or hazy. Rain is another huge part of the weather effects system. There will be dynamic water buildup as you race. And it's not random. One of the examples they gave us is that puddles will only form in locations that are prone to them. When the rain ends, the surface will dry from the areas that tend to dry first, and the areas with puddles will stay wet the longest. All really cool stuff that adds a lot to the game. The drying line will affect vehicle handling just like in real life. In real life, you tend to avoid taking the proper line during the rain because that's where most of the water and oil will build up. As the track dries up, that's when you start to gradually go back to taking the ideal line. The rain focus features don't end there. Rain clouds will be localized to specific parts of the track. In longer tracks like Nürburgring, for example, it can be raining in a certain part of the track while being sunny on a different section. On top of the wet indicator on the bottom left we saw a few months ago, there's also a brand new rain cloud radar indicator. You can find it where the regular radar usually is, and it can be used to predict the weather to some extent. GT Planet confirmed that all tracks will have limited time and weather transitions. They'll feature morning to evening time progression and weather that can cycle between sunny and cloudy. Now this one is a bit of a bummer, but I sort of expected it, to be honest. So yeah, you won't be able to customize weather and time progression to your liking, at least not extensively, unfortunately. On the upside, tracks like Spa, Le Mans, Daytona and Nürburgring will feature evening through morning time progression to allow for a full 24-hour cycle. Wet weather will only be available on some specific tracks. They didn't say which ones will have it, but that's official confirmation that we won't be able to make it rain anywhere we want. They also said that atmospheric conditions will affect tire grip and even engine power and strength of the slipstream effect. All of that goes right into the physics simulation to create a more realistic experience. Sport mode is confirmed for Gran Turismo 7 and that's all we know for now. No changes have been announced for this one yet, but at the very least I hope the penalty system is less finicky this time around. Lobbies are also back, but the free runs were turned into meeting places where people can chat and cruise around. They didn't explain exactly how this one is going to work, but I know people have been asking for this for a really long time now. One of the ways they're going to use the adaptive triggers is to allow us to feel the vibrations of a tire lock state under braking, so the harder you lock it up, the stronger the vibration will come through. If you go into a corner carrying too much speed, the haptic feedback will be used to make you feel your front tires due to how the car reacts under those conditions. And that's not all. Haptic feedback will be used to feel the state of your tires, so things like degradation and wear will be transmitted through different types of subtle vibrations. They're also going to use the haptic feedback to make you feel the track surface texture, engine and drivetrain vibrations, and even the resonance of the car's body. Now, I'm cautiously optimistic about this one. So far, every racing game I try tend to over-exaggerate the DualSense features, and to me, this is a case of less is more. I think it's very likely that Polyphony Digital might be the first one to get it right, but I'm not getting my hopes up until I see it. Although the PS4 and PS5 versions of the game are mostly the same, the PS5 version will have better audio. The game has the equivalent of a 16-channel audio system by default, but the PS5 version will be able to render several hundred channels of speakers using ambisonic technology. Ambisonics is a full sphere surround sound format that can simulate sound sources from above and below the listener. Yamauchi says the headphones are the best way to experience this audio format due to how you'll be able to tell exactly where sounds are coming from. Sound will bounce off different materials, and the amount of reverberation will vary depending on the texture and hardness of the surface. All of that creates a more natural ambiance. 3D audio will help you feel the position of audio sources and how they move in a 3D space. 3D audio has been a hit or miss feature for me personally, but I do hope Gran Turismo 7 sounds amazing. That was a really long one, but I think I got everything covered. For those of you who stuck around until the end, thank you very much. I really appreciate it because this was a lot of work to put together. That's all I have for this one. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.